especially in our community, our people have a ton of potential.
Yeah.
People just don't explore them.
Yeah.
People just box themselves into tiny boxes. I'm like, oh, this is, I'm doing this, I'm staying in this track, but I think there's a whole lot more that we can do if we just decide to explore and not be afraid to fail.
Welcome to the show. I am your host, Anya Fambat, and I spark the hard conversations that challenge questionable cultural and societal norms that threaten the well-being of the African community. And I also share stories about growing up as Africans in Africa and in the diaspora. I strongly believe that normalizing open discussions and sharing experiences, whether good or bad, will not only make you find your voice, but will broaden your sense of purpose and empower others to do the same. So if you have ever tried challenging certain African cultural and societal doctrines, or if you have ever felt like it is about time that we confronted these issues in our African community and do better as a people, or even if you have always been interested in learning about the experiences of other Africans growing up in Africa and the diaspora, then you are in the right place. Welcome to Living African. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Living African. Today we will be talking about a very inspiring conversation or story, I hope. And this is basically a story of an African immigrant, story of his life and his journey to innovation through entrepreneurship. And this story was super inspiring to me. I really have not gotten deep into the details, but I have spoken to Leslie Asanga, and he is the founder or the co-founder of UrPharm and the founder of Pills2Me. And his story is just super amazing. And he actually had to be here with his partner, Roger Stuke, who's a co-founder as well of UrPharm, but he's not able to make it. So Leslie will be speaking on behalf of both of them. But I really look forward to this conversation, and I hope that it impacts and inspires members of our community. So I want to welcome you here, Leslie. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for taking the time to have that conversation with us. I know it's been a long time coming. And, you are so busy, and I could not let this opportunity pass for anything. So I really want to thank you for making that time for us here at Living African. So let's just get into it. Can you please introduce yourself to the audience?
Yes, so my name is Leslie Asanga. I'm originally from Cameroon, and I moved to the US in 2010 for school. And so I've been going to school ever since. Mm-hmm. And so I'm a pharmacist. I have my PharmD MBA. Yeah. And then I went back to school again. Mm-hmm. After that. After working as a pharmacist for a couple of years, mm-hmm. I went back to Yale, where I studied public health with a focus on public health entrepreneurship. And so the goal was to kind of learn some skills mm-hmm. that can be translated into the global market. And then, while I was there, founded two companies, UrPharm, which I co-founded with my co-founder Suki, which is a mobile app that helps give people easy access to essential medications in sub-Saharan Africa. And then later on, Pills2Me, which is on-demand prescription delivery service here in the US, kind of like Uber for medication.
Yeah, thank you so much for that introduction. And I would really love to know more about these two companies. So let's start with UrPharm. I know you just touched on it very briefly, but I really want us to talk more about that as well, just because it's focused more in sub-Saharan Africa. And, I really want our people, especially those in sub-Saharan Africa, to understand and know how it works. And also, I feel like from understanding how it works, they could appreciate it more and maybe use it more, right? So can you please tell us about it?
Yeah. So, as people who grew up in Cameroon and, one day me and my co-founder, Suki, were talking about, it was a good Saturday. I remember that day very well. I was going to the car wash, and then we got on a call, just casual talking. And then we were like, what do we do? Because he's in tech and I'm a pharmacist. And we were like, what can we really do to impact, to give back to people back home? What can we do to impact with all these skills that we've acquired, since? And Suki is like my childhood friend who went to primary school in Cameroon all the way through secondary school, so we talked about it, we flirted with a few ideas, and what kept returning was, we remember about, how hard it is to find medications in Cameroon, right? So we started brainstorming on how to solve that problem. So that's how we came up with the idea for UrPharm. So UrPharm simply is a mobile app. When someone goes to a doctor, most of the times you prescribe medication, people after that, patients go through multiple pharmacies to look for medications. And in the process, some people we've received testimonials that people's family members have died in that process, right? Someone
lack of access,
much time, going through. So, again, we thought like that shouldn't be happening in the world today, where almost everyone and their grandma has a smartphone. Yeah. So we decided to build that mobile app whereby you go to a doctor, you get prescription, currently in Cameroon. You get on the app, type the name of the medication. It'll show you the pharmacies that have that medication in stock from the closest furthest from you. So now you know exactly where to go. And it also shows you the exact price. Right. So that there's also no surprises when you get to the pharmacy. So you know exactly how much it's going to cost. Yeah. And to the third part, us also is a problem that we us living in the diaspora, we're facing, right? Like, someone is sick in Cameroon, you're not, before UrPharm, our only option was to send money. Yeah. Was to send money. So, and most of the time, sometimes these medications are not that expensive. It might be like a $5, $10, $20, right? Yeah. But when you're trying to send money, you're trying to go through Western Union and all the
fees,
You pay fees, you pay high fees, and you also find yourself sending more than what is needed, right? Because sometimes the amount is too small. So we made it possible that if someone needs medication in Cameroon, they get on the UrPharm app, they find the medication, they just share the link with their loved one in the diaspora. And then you pay for the medication here, and the person receives a confirmation, takes it to the pharmacy, and picks up their medication. As simple as that.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, that's a very neat concept. That is extremely neat. And, I only imagine like the app too is very user friendly. And so, if you basically, this is what it has come to. Let me just say this. If you live in Africa or anywhere in the world and you take medication, you have someone that takes medications, or you take medications in at least the countries that UrPharm is available, then we're going to get into that. If you have WhatsApp app, if you have a Facebook app, you better be having a UrPharm app as well. Basically, right? You better be having a UrPharm app, because Facebook, WhatsApp, and all those other social media apps, they're fun and everything, but the most essential apps you should have. And if you have lived in Cameroon, for example, I can speak for Cameroon because I grew up there, and I'm sure it's probably almost the same thing in other African countries. Sometimes, I personally have a story, like I almost lost my life when I was like 5 years old because I had to have a surgery and the pharmacies were closed. And that's just part of the story, but pharmacies were closed, or the pharmacies that were even open, they didn't have the medications that I needed. And thankfully, my mom was a doctor and she could pull some strings for me to get some medications. But what if my mom wasn't a doctor? I probably would not be alive today, right? And a lot of families have also been experiencing this, like lack of access is always a huge issue in our community, especially lack of access to good medications, and I say good medications because sometimes you have these hawkers that sell medications that are expired, and people just cannot afford to, especially pharmacies that have low turnover, they cannot afford to get rid of the medications because, that's a loss, and then they keep selling it. I'm not saying everybody does, but you could find some people who do. So if you have an app that actually also, in addition to letting you know what medications are in stock or in the inventory, also assures you that the medications are, viable and good and not expired, that I would rather go to that pharmacy, or I'd rather use that app to find the closest pharmacy around me than, trying to figure it out and going out to a drugstore or a hawker out there to get a medication that I'm not even sure about. So it's a very essential app as much as Facebook, WhatsApp, and all the other social media apps. So I really want to encourage everyone in Africa and out of Africa who has someone in Africa who's sick and will need medications to download that app to find out how they can get medications for their loved ones or get medications for themselves. Now, what countries is UrPharm available in, and how do you guys plan to expand?
Yeah, so UrPharm is currently available in Cameroon, and we're currently in the working to expand to Kenya, Nigeria, and Ghana. Those are our top three that we're looking to expand to by the end of the year. Mm-hmm. And we've been working on this for quite a while, and we're almost there. So in the few months, the coming up months, we'll be doing a lot of work on that.
Right.
So I'm glad you touched on the authenticity of the medications part of it, right? Because the one thing we did was when we launched, we figured out, we did some research, and it's crazy. It's like 4 out of 10 medications in most sub-Saharan African countries is either substandard or counterfeit.
Wow. The counterfeit meds too. Yeah.
Yeah, that is huge, So we made it a point to. And it mostly comes from this informal sector, right?
Yeah.
Because there's no traceability of the chain of custody, where supply chain is not vetted by anybody because it's obviously smuggled into the country, into many countries. So we made it a point to only enroll on board licensed pharmacies on our platform. So at least you have some level of comfort, okay, you're dealing with people who have been vetted and whose source of their medications are, have like a clear path. And so that's the exact same strategy we'll be using going to any other, as we go into any other of these countries.
Yeah, that's very true and very important for people to have, because it gives some kind of assurance. That authenticity gives some kind of assurance to customers and to patients, because nobody wants to ingest anything that's going to make their situation worse, and we already know about it's kind of a low-key pandemic that has to do with counterfeit medications, especially in Africa, just because they don't have as stringent of regulations that, catch these illegal smugglers compared to, of course, to here in America and stuff like that. So it's very important that, there's some form of authenticity in the medications and also in the institutions, in this case, the pharmacists that distribute these medications to the patients. So how are you guys planning? In the meantime, what parts of Cameroon are you guys available?
So we have partner pharmacies in Bamenda. We have them in Douala, Yaoundé, and we have them in Boya, Limbe. I think we recently got one in Garoua.
Okay. Oh, wow.
So those are the places. And the beauty too about this is that it provides so much value to these pharmacies that they, at first we were doing a lot of the recruiting, like getting these in front of these pharmacies and trying to get them on board. But now they're hearing about us and calling us and saying, hey, can I, like the guy in Garoua, I heard from a friend in Douala about UrPharm, and they're like, hey, I want in too.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah. Cause I was going to ask next, like, sometimes, from experience, obviously, working with professionals back home, some of the professionals, I would say some, are not as receptive to change or to advancements, So, and I don't even think that is because they don't believe in the thing. Sometimes it's like they just don't want to go out of their comfort zone, So, so I'm really, really proud of, and I'm happy to hear that people are now reaching out to you, because I would only imagine starting off that kind of very innovative idea must have been very challenging to get into the market. But I feel like, the sky is the limit from here.
Yeah. And even now, right? Even while some people are being very receptive, some people, like you said, some people are they're just not getting it, Yeah. A lot of people is like, we met one person who was like, oh, I've been in business for over 30 years. My pharmacy makes more than 30 million francs a month.
I don't
how
see
much you can add me.
right.
So yeah, it's one of those things.
It's about the money and not even the value to the patient.
Exactly.
It's ridiculous.
Exactly. And that is sad. It's sad when it gets to that point where it's all about the numbers, the money. Because this is, yeah. But yeah, for the ones, we focus more on the ones that are receptive, the people that are forward thinking,
Yes.
And yeah, those and gladly enough too, we're having there like a lot of like younger and more innovative pharmacists and pharmacy owners in Cameroon that get it, and that want to be part of the wave.
Yes, that's very important. Thank you so much for sharing that. Now let's go to Pills2Me. Can you tell us more about Pills2Me? Like when I heard about that, I was super excited because, I'm a pharmacist too, but, they have this saying like healthcare providers are like the worst patients. Like I can't tell, like my pharmacy actually is 5 minutes, not even up to 5 minutes away from me. Right. But when I have a script that's been sent to the pharmacy, I am extremely lazy to drive 5 minutes to go pick it up. Like every time I just like, oh my God, I wish there was some kind of delivery service. I'll just get it, And I don't even want to say I think it's part of the laziness, but it's just how comfortable innovation has made us feel. Like innovation is all about making our life very easy. I mean, I'm a huge Uber Eats spender. Like, I mean, sometimes I just don't want to go out to the restaurant. Sometimes I just want to sit home and someone delivers me food, So I probably use Uber Eats at least 5 times a month, at least. So, I mean, with the Uber pharmacy per se, it's a mind-blowing initiative, So just let us know about that. And I'm super excited about that as well.
Yeah. So you're not alone, right? It is kind of like the consumer behavior now, these days. When we actually started Pills2Me, right? It was a free service. It was just, I was going to school. I was a student at Yale and working part-time as a pharmacist when the pandemic hit. And then we saw an increase in prescription abandonment, particularly between amongst the seniors and immunocompromised, right? Yeah. And rightfully so, because COVID. All this thing about, high-risk population for COVID. So we just recruited younger volunteers, which at the time were mostly Yale students and faculty that signed up to help deliver prescriptions for free to seniors. So they can maintain social distancing, and hopefully stop the slow down the spread of COVID. And then as word began to go out, we started hearing people from the general public calling us and saying, hey, I've heard about this service, and I'm not senior, I'm not immunocompromised, but I would, love to use it, So, and that's where we dug deeper now into the business model. We did a lot of market analysis, did over 200 customer discovery calls and figured out like, hey, there is a huge opportunity here. So, so that's how we decided to build, because our process were pretty much manual, just the website that you would fill out at the time. So now we had to automate it, now build out a tech team and build a mobile app that anyone now can use to order for the prescriptions to be picked up from any pharmacy and delivered in minutes, So it's one of those no-brainer kind of situations where you think about it, the current user behavior, right? Yeah. Is that everybody wants everything delivered and delivered fast. Now people, you can see that in your home, you order a car, right?
Online, Carvana.
You can buy a car called Carvana and have it delivered right to your door without you having to leave, You can order
Instacart. I use Instacart every week, honestly.
Exactly. You don't have to go to groceries anymore. So what was actually even lacking in that is that, hey, people, when it comes to medications, there's not that much of a viable option. So that kind of just fits. So something we build thinking that the more of the users are going to be like seniors or disabled people who naturally we don't have access to pharmacy because they don't drive or like that. No, now it's more people. The majority of people are using it for convenience.
Yes. And I probably will be one of them. Anything to make my life easier, you know? Yeah, that's so interesting. Thank you so much. Now, so you said before they were using volunteers, right? And now I'm sure there is a way to sign up for if someone wants to, I guess, work for Pills2Me, or just like Uber, right? Like people have to sign up and stuff like that. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so we're actually recruiting and training caregivers. So when we started with just hiring just like pharmacy technicians or home health aides or CNAs, people in the healthcare that are already used to, handling prescriptions, to now, as we scale, as we're getting more and more demand, we're now recruiting people from the general population and then training them into becoming a Pills2Me caregiver. So anyone can apply. All they need is download our app, get on it, they sign up as a driver. We'll run some background checks and then give them that training and then, and then onboard them on the platform and their life ready to roll.
Right. And let's talk about that training because, you could have some people saying, oh, I don't want anybody touching my medications. You don't know if they're going to take part of my medications, especially the controlled meds. Addiction is such a high thing here. Like the rates of addiction is very high. And, a lot of people could be a bit skeptical, like, okay, these are my medications. I don't know what this person is probably going to put fake medications there or take my medications and stuff like that. So let's just use this explanation in terms of the training as a form of reassurance to the customers, right? Or to the patients. Yeah. So what kind of training do you guys give? I know, of course, HIPAA, which is, I forgot the long
health insurance accountability and accountability
act. Yeah. Basically patient health protection information. I'm sure that training is provided because, they're handling patients' information and they don't want to expose the patient's identity or even, be nosy to know who this medication is for and stuff like that. But what kind of training, not getting too much into it, but just on a surface level, what kind of training do you guys give to reassure the patients that the caregivers are not going to mess up their medications?
Yeah, so that is a great point. And that is actually where we thrive, right? Where we thrive is, as you can imagine, one, we make sure that the caregivers only have access to very limited information, right? Very limited and that is embedded in the way our platform was built, very, very HIPAA compliant and secured. And then when it comes to the training, we do a thorough background check, right? We make sure that, okay, this person has a clean record, number one. And then we do random drug testing, making sure these people, are not people who are using drugs and all of that. And then on top of that, we do the HIPAA and then medication handling. So there's a lot that goes into it to ensure that. So we basically train people, train people as much as the way that pharmacy technicians and home health aides are trained, as well as all those other people who normally take care of these seniors. Because if you think of it, these people are the ones they're handling medications in the pharmacy, or there's like the training that the home health aid people get and going to take care of people in their homes. They still have access to all of these things.
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
So I think it comes now to how the people are vetted and how they're treated, and we don't take that lightly. And that's one of the things that one of our investors was actually really happy about. He was like, "Oh, I'm glad that you come from a healthcare background because the way I talked about, how secure it is like, if it was just an entrepreneur who didn't really have insights into healthcare, they would have been looking at their North Star would be just the dollar sign.
Yeah, the dollar, the business side of it.
And when you focus too much on the dollar sign, there's so many details that you get to miss. But for us, having worked in healthcare, having dealt with a lot of these people, we understand the importance of this. So we actually made sure that we tighten, all these loopholes, as we go. So yes, I'll go. And then another thing we do is we partner with some pharmacies and we have tamper evident packaging that we give them. branded Pills2Me packaging. So yes, so it comes into it sealed, nobody knows what's in. Like, for example, we have that contracted with Southern Nevada Health District to deliver medications to low income and other special populations in Southern Las Vegas and Southern Nevada area. So yes, we provide them with this Tampa Evident packaging that they use to put every medication, all of the patient's information is concealed there. Nobody has access to that. So yes, we continuously find ways to make sure that, number one, patient information privacy is intact. Number two, the people we're bringing in are not naturally good people. And that's why our process is rigorous.
Yes.
To make sure that we bring on the right people on there.
That's amazing. So what pharmacies so far have you guys contracted with in case people want to use the service? I use Walgreens, right?
Yeah. So we the beauty about what we've built, right? We built a system that doesn't require a contract. Okay. So we people from any pharmacy. So our process is built in a way that is compliant with all pharmacy laws of all 50 states. And that's the beauty of it. So we don't require any kind of, contract to do that.
Right.
When we launch in a city, like we're planning a launch in Houston in June. So when we launch in a city, we're currently onboarding the caregivers right now. When we onboard them, we get those and then we go live. We can pick up from any pharmacy. So we're more of, and I like to make this distinction, right? Like, unlike other delivery services, we are not just because those is easy. It's like grab, drop, pick, drop. Yes. For us, we're delivering wellness. We're not just, it's not just from point A to point B. We're delivering awareness, and that's why our caregivers go through all this training and all of that. So we've made it in a way that you get the same care that you would get, kind of like your
at
home
the pharmacy.
Health care on the,
right.
Yeah. And they do it the same, like you would have sent your own family member, your spouse or your anybody in your family to pick up your prescriptions for you. Is the same, because it's a really trusted and vetted people that we're using.
Right. So now this is basically one of the questions that I typically will have as a patient, and a lot of people may be interested in knowing and how to maneuver that, because, sometimes when you go to the pharmacy to pick up your medication, what does the pharmacy do? The pharmacist do. The pharmacist asks you, first of all, they try to counsel you on the medication, right? And then they ask if you have any questions and stuff like that. So I believe in this case, when, since you don't have that contact with the pharmacist to counsel you on the medication, does the pharmacy call you to talk about the medications, or if you have any questions, you just call the pharmacy?
Yeah. So the one of the good things too is that once a caregiver accepts an order, they're connected with the patient, right? So everything that goes on, if there is something important the pharmacist wanted to say, the caregiver can relate right away with it. This is like, if it's like take with food, they can just put it in the chat with the patient and they need you to take this medication with food, right? So that can be translated, to the patient. Or if it's something that they actually want to talk to the patient, then the pharmacist can get on the phone and talk to the patient. But yes, but we provide that easy communication in a way that once you place an order as a user, you have that communication with the caregiver that, you guys information can flow freely. Yeah. So if anything is happening, we get people tell the caregiver, please don't forget to get a syringe. When you get to the pharmacy, don't forget to ask them for a syringe. Yes. So yes, there's easy communication that happens there. Okay. That we're hoping, to keep, and they can also call through the app too. Yeah. So they call each other and say, hey, this is what the pharmacist wants to speak with you, and then hand it over to the pharmacist, and they do whatever counseling they want.
Okay, that's great.
It doesn't stop that.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you guys are launching in Houston in June. So what other cities have you launched in?
So right now we're currently in Las Vegas and New Haven, but more heavily in Las Vegas because that was our primary pilot market. Okay. So now we're working on expanding to multiple cities. So that's one of my main focus in our Techstars Accelerator right now. Like main goal, creating that playbook, right, for multi-city launch. So that when we launch Houston from there, it'll be like, we're looking to launch up at least 6 different cities within the next 8 to 10 months.
Yes. And congratulations for being part of that Techstars program. So let's talk about that. And you can tell me as much as you are allowed to, So tell us about that, because a lot of people don't really know about that. I didn't know about that until I spoke to you. And honestly, I'm glad that we're starting off this conversation like this, because when people know what you have achieved and then know what you have gone through to achieve what you are currently achieving now, they will be mind blown, and they will actually understand and appreciate the importance of certain values, which we will talk about later. So tell us about that program.
Yeah. So, Techstars is an accelerator, a global accelerator that helps entrepreneurs succeed. That's literally their slogan. They helps entrepreneurs. So basically, they take companies, great founders, with world-changing ideas, and skill sets, complementary skill sets, and help them grow and build these big companies, right? So it's a lot. So it's a 12 weeks program. Like, you get into a 12 weeks program, and during that, it's kind of like a boot camp, And I'm going to tell you, like, when they said it, at the start of the program, our managing director said they're going to make us do 2 years worth of work in 3 months. I thought it was a joke. I thought that was like crazy, but honestly, it's been, the things that we've been, and so it's kind of like, again, I always say you don't know what you don't know, right? Trying to build a business. After the first 2 weeks of Techstars, I figured out we've been doing a lot of things the hard way. There's always an easier way of doing things,
Right.
And Techstars too is also very mentorship driven. So they surround you with all these great mentors that you can pick and choose based on your needs. So if you're weak in operations, if you're weak in sales and marketing, if you're weak in technology, so you're surrounded by really amazing, people that have built like big companies, that have run great companies, and the beauty too about it is like they're willing to help.
Yes.
We talked about mentorship. I thought it was going to be, it's literally hand holding. Like, there are people that are willing to take your call at any time of the day and, talk about anything and everything. So it helps you, understand certain things you didn't know, and then also helps you avoid some certain pitfalls, right?
Yeah.
Tell you about, and then it is a very, very, very safe environment for everyone. So they come in and they tell you all like the things about building a company that you wouldn't find on online, in the news, right? You wouldn't find it anywhere. So plus they give you money and then they connect you with investors, right?
Yeah.
What's
better than that?
What's better than that?
Right.
It's really, really a great, when you go through an accelerator, it increases your chances of success. By I think at least 5 to 10 folds.
Yeah. So, I'm already looking, I wouldn't even say I'm looking at a successful person, because what you have done, that is way more than the success I would have ever imagined, honestly, and I just want to applaud you for never giving up, and just for pushing and just, outdoing yourself, right? I really want to applaud you, because nobody really sees the work that goes on behind the scenes, and I don't even know how you do it, but, I just hope and pray that, you continue to have that strength to keep going, because you're about to do great things. I know. Yeah, you're about to do greater things. You're already doing great things, right?
A lot. It is, it's one of those things, I think, part of my character or something. I got to learn it the hard way, right? Like, just growing up, a lot of the things that I had to go through in my life, I think at the time I hated it so much, but it's turning out to be a blessing. It's turning out just like preparing me for the moment.
Yeah. So that's very true. You know, sometimes we go through things in life and, you know, we tend to question like, why are we going through this, or why is this happening to me? Right. And then they always say hindsight is 20/20. Right. Because there's this verse in the Bible that I always go back to, Romans 8:28. All things work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose. Right. And, you know, that verse is very applicable to life, or at least to my life, because every single thing, every single struggle that I have gone through in the past, at that moment, I could not understand. But when I look back, I'm like, everything that I went through was supposed to be part of my story and was supposed to be part of a bigger purpose. You know, so now it gives me perspective to not really worry too much, even though I still worry. I'm human. To not really worry too, right?
Worry is part of life. Yeah.
Yeah. To not really worry much, you know, when I'm going through things, because I know that it will all make sense in the future. Talking about making sense. Let's take it a few steps back. Now, tell us about yourself. I know I asked this question, like, introduce yourself, you know. Okay, let's get deep and dirty into it. Tell us about your story. Tell us about how you even got here.
Yeah, I mean, so my journey in life has been, you know, it has been more of, I would say a roller coaster, right? It has been, I mean, from birth, right? Sometimes, you know, I see that I'm like, it looks like I wasn't even supposed to be here, you know? So I was born to a teenage mom in Cameroon, you know, and I grew up with my grandmom very early days. I grew up with my grandmom, and life was good for the most part when I was younger. And then my grandmom passed, you know, and then I had to move and live with one family to the next, you know. So it was different, you know, but I look at it now, I really appreciate people that opened up their doors for me, you know, because you didn't have to, you know, but I wasn't at any point really homeless. Yeah. I wasn't homeless, you know, that's the beauty about it. Like, I was an orphan, you know, but I wasn't really homeless. So
what age did your grandma pass?
My grandma passed, I was like 11. Yeah, almost 12. So I was in around class 7, I would say, primary school. So when she passed, and then I went on to live with my aunt, and then later on went to live with my granddad, and then from there, you know, again, life was okay. And then my mom passed when I was in high school. You know, that was it's just, you know, because life took a different turn, right? And I've plowed through high school, graduated high school, top of my class, but couldn't go to college because I couldn't afford it, right? And now when I even think about it, it's crazy because tuition is like 50,000 francs, $100.
Yeah, $100. Yeah.
Yeah, but I couldn't afford it. So I remember very well one of my aunts, may her soul rest in peace. She came for a funeral in the village. That was in Santa. She came to a funeral in the village. And then she saw me. She was like, "Oh, how was school? And how's everything? How was the GC?" I was like, "It was great. I passed well." And she was like, "Okay, what next?" I'm like, "Well, nothing." She was like, "How nothing?" You know. And then she's like, "Okay, you're so smart. I don't want you to I don't want your smartness to go to waste." So she gave me transport. She's like, "Okay, come to Douala. I will figure something out."
And back then, you were living in the village.
Yeah, I was in the village. Like, I'd finished high school, passed the A levels, and that
top
was
of
it.
Your class, and you went back to the village. Yeah.
That was it. Right. My friends were making plans for university. That was like, man, it was done, you know, for me. So like, it is, I get emotional when I talk about this and I look back because the people that I grew up with that stayed, remained there and that are still there in Santa, they're like people with some of the best people with the biggest potential, but just no opportunity.
No opportunity.
You know, no opportunity. So that single moment is one of the life-changing moments for me, because where the next week when I moved to Douala, I got admissions to University Yaoundé, and then I went, but again, sad thing, she got diagnosed with cancer. And, you know, she had to go through treatment. So I still had to drop out, you know.
And that's your auntie who sponsored you to university.
Yeah. So there, when she couldn't, when she was sick, she couldn't send money anymore. So I had to stop, you know, and yeah. So it was like for a good 7 to 8 years, life was horrible. Like I didn't have, you know, there was nothing that I could really, there was no hope. It was like hope was gone, right? But, you know, it was just, I just kept thinking and, you know, trying so many different things to get my head out of the water and all of that. And then by 2009, 2010, I had saved some money and I decided I wanted to go back to school. So I wanted to go back to school. And then I got admissions and then applied, went and got a student visa, and then I came.
So you wanted to go back to school and you applied to school here in America?
Yes, I applied to schools in the US.
Okay.
I would say one of the things with me that regardless of wherever I've always found myself, I've always been ambitious. You know, I'd always been thinking big, right? Even when I decided I wanted to go, I was thinking like, hey, like I should be I want to go to the best schools. I want to go to somewhere, you know, I want to get the best I can get out of life, right? Yeah. And even though at the time when I was trying to apply, there were a lot of people who were like, oh, it's going to be hard. How are you going to get a visa to go to America? But for me, it's like, I might as well try. Yeah. You know? Yeah. You never know. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's actually, before we even get to the America part, right? Let's talk more about how you try to get yourself out of the water. Like you said, like, you know, how you try to get your head out of the water in Cameroon. Because I really want us to go into those details of how life was for you and how you struggled, because I feel like a lot of youths in Africa or in Cameroon at the least could identify with your struggle, and they will get more inspiration from your story to know that as long as you just keep trying and never giving up on yourself and showing up every day for yourself, things will get better. You know, things will always work out. So how was life like when you were in university and, you know, when your aunt sponsored you through university and then she died? Like, how did you even manage to continue showing up for yourself and living and trying to make ends meet to the point of even saving?
Yeah, so it was more about, you know, again, entrepreneurship, right? So one thing I did, you know, as a student environment, as living in a student environment was I figured out, you know, where like a lot of people like a lot of like, you know, how university students in university areas, they like fashion wear, they like parties and all of that stuff. So what I did was I was getting, you know, kind of like fashion kind of stuff, accessories and all of that. I was getting them wholesale from wholesalers and then reselling to university students, you know, at an upcharge, you know, and making money out of that. And then after a while, I figured out where the wholesalers were sourcing their stuff in Dubai. And then I started going to Dubai myself, you know, and buying the stuff and bringing back to Cameroon and selling them. And we even, you know, I remember we even used to organize parties and we made a ton of money. You'll be surprised. You know, we call it Men in White. We organized this party and we made like 12 million.
Wow.
Yeah. We made like 12 million out of that party. So it was a bunch of like doing so many different things that was just, you know, that was just irrelevant to the environment at the time, and, you know, making money off of it. And then saving up some money. So by the time I had saved money, I was like, I really started making a lot of money when I was like going to Dubai, buying stuff, coming back to Cameroon.
Yeah.
And after I saved some money, it was like either I keep doing what I was doing because it was profitable, or one side of me kept saying, I felt like I hadn't really explored my full potential because people that really believed in me, my grandma, my mom, my aunt, they believed in me for one thing. They thought I was smart, right? I didn't think so, but everyone thought so. So I was like, I'm not doing any justice if I don't go back to school. I felt empty in a way. I was like, okay, I feel like that was my biggest potential is in education, going back to school. And so that's when I made that decision at the time because things were going well. I'm not going to lie. Things were at that point in time, if it was just the money side of it, I was growing, I was growing, but I just felt empty and I felt like I could get more, And when I look at it now, even from a money perspective, at that point, from where I stood, it looked like a lot. But when I look now, it was like it's like peanuts, right?
Yeah.
but so I'm glad I decided I decided to go back to school, not even knowing what was going to come out of it. But one thing was for sure was that I knew that I wasn't going to go to school in America and come back with nothing.
Yeah.
That was for sure. If you ask me what I was, even like I'm a pharmacist now, and if you ask me what pharmacy was when I was in Cameroon, I wouldn't tell you.
Yeah.
I had early ideas about what pharmacies were, what pharmacists did and all of that. But that wasn't until when I came here. Yeah.
And I was actually going to ask, what influenced your career path?
Yeah. So becoming a pharmacist was... So when I moved here and decided to go to school, I was looking at, I was exploring so many different options, specifically in healthcare. So because how in Cameroon, when you're growing up, like almost every child, if you're smart enough, almost everyone's like, oh, you're going to be a doctor, right?
Right.
So it was like a lot of those influences that kept resonating in my head. But then I looked at it when I came, I actually wanted to go to med school and I looked at all the options I looked at the time. I was like, man, I don't think I have that time, right? That was like 8 years after graduating high school. So I didn't have that luxury of time to go. And given the other family pressures, I turned back, I looked at my siblings that are looking up to me and other people. So it was like, that wasn't it. So I continued exploring other healthcare options, and then I came on to pharmacy, And I think my early exposure to pharmacy, my grandma actually was a nurse at the Bamenda General Hospital. So every time I would go visit her, I would stop by the pharmacy. It was like almost next to it. There was this really nice pharmacist there that we used to stop by and talk to all the time. And I just admired him, first of all, his personality was nice, and then he didn't work in the pharmacy every time, go there. So that was my actually first exposure into what pharmacy is all about. So when I saw all these opportunities, I was like, I can become a pharmacist too. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I was like, with all these opportunities, I could either my first idea was going to become a nurse, go into nursing school. And I looked at medical school, and then in between I found pharmacy. I was like, now, So that is pretty much it. And then I did some research. I looked at the profession. I liked a lot about it. So I also worked as a pharmacy technician prior to starting pharmacy school. So I got to get a little bit of insight into what pharmacy is all about.
Yeah, that's very interesting, actually. And the lesson that we could possibly learn from this is just be nice to people, because you don't know who you're impacting, who you're inspiring. Because if that guy wasn't nice to you, I don't know if you would have chosen or even had more appreciation for pharmacy, right? So, So, I mean, just hearing your story of how far you've come, I mean, there's no better definition of success, even though I look at success as an ongoing pursuit,
It's a moving target.
Yeah, because you haven't really arrived. There's more and more. And I don't think you can have as much success. You always need more and more and more, So, but then so far, I feel like, your story from where you came from has truly been inspiring. So what, in your own words, do you define success?
Yeah, I mean, success for me and at so many different, like, it's been defined differently at different stages of my life, right? For example, when my grandma passed, like, for me, I just needed a place to stay, right? So having a place to go back to, that was success. And then when I graduated high school, couldn't go to university, couldn't go to college. It was like success to me at that point was just going to college, And yeah, so it was just going to college. And then now, after everything else, like, exceeding even my own expectations and getting to where I'm at. For me, success is, I'll consider myself successful if I get to build something that is impacting lives of people I don't even know somewhere and it's going to outlive me. That's what I would consider success. Like, if I build something impactful that goes beyond helping just people I know, and then that has a potential of outliving me, that's still going to be here even when I'm gone. I think for me, I would say that is success.
Right. That's very true. That's really very true. Now, do you actively practice as a pharmacist?
No.
Okay.
No. So right now it's like full time. And I've had this question. People ask me, it's like, do you regret going to pharmacy school? Because now you're like practicing pharmacy. I'm like, no.
Yeah, it was a stepping stone. Yeah.
Besides that, right? It gives me a ton of credibility. Because sometimes you get in front of people, like I get in front of people and I'm talking about what we're building and the processes, and the person like ask me like, oh, how is that possible? How is that legal? Is that legal? Like, can you do it? I'm like, I'm a pharmacist. A lot of time, that's what ends the conversation.
Yeah.
I just say, hey, I'm a pharmacist. Like, then they understand, like, okay, he knows what he's talking about, right? Yeah, I've been in spaces where that has come in. And again, a lot of the processes we've gotten to build in Pills2Me and UrPharm, right?
Yeah.
A lot of the thing is from my background as a pharmacist.
Yeah.
Because there's certain things that me and you as pharmacists, we take for granted. We think it's common knowledge. It's not.
That's true.
Yeah, there are things that you just think about. It's like second nature to you, but to the average person, it's not. So yes, and then there are also some insights that we have working in, and I'm glad I actually work retail pharmacy, because there are a ton of insights that I know about customer behavior that we're introducing it into our Pills2Me processes that I wouldn't have known. When I'm talking to my team, I would try to figure out, and I get the whys and the hows, then I understand like, oh, this is not common knowledge. This is something I thought was really, but okay.
Right.
I have to explain to them the big picture of why we're doing this is because this is how patients behave. This is what happens. So it's a hard question to ask. Do I still practice as a pharmacist? Yeah, I still use my
yeah.
But actively as, a regular pharmacist job, no. I don't.
Okay.
I haven't since April of 2020.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair enough, because I was just wondering, because there's so many moving parts in your life right now, and making that time to go into the pharmacy to fill pills, it will most likely be challenging. And sometimes, right, I also ask that question because sometimes, and I feel like I'm going through that, sometimes you have dreams, right? And then those dreams will require you sacrifice. And when I say sacrifice, in terms of letting go of maybe what you're currently doing to give you more time to invest into those dreams. And, in our African community, we have a hard time letting go. And I'm not even going to say letting go per se, because you're still using that knowledge from pharmacy to apply to whatever, to the innovative thing that you're doing, right? So it's not like you have just abandoned pharmacy, but I would like to look at it more of like your experience as a pharmacist is more of a stepping stone to where you are today, because you wouldn't have had as much insight if you weren't a pharmacist, right? Yep. So sometimes, like for me, I have things that I would love to do, that I'm passionate about. And of course, my knowledge in pharmacy would probably help a lot towards that. Yeah. But, sometimes just that idea of, I also have a PharmD, I have an MBA, and I have a master's I have 2 masters in science and health economics. And, sometimes I have this fear of letting, of just going all the way in. Because number one, I'm like, okay, my parents paid for my tuition. I don't have any student loans. I don't want to waste that degree. And, I feel bad that they wasted all this money and then I did not, but then my parents really don't care, actually. They don't care. But it's just that internal guilt. And then, that's just the guilt in my own perspective. But I know many people themselves, they hang on to that prestige of, oh, I'm a pharmacist, or I'm a doctor, or I'm a, this. And because our African community is either doctor, lawyer, pharmacist, right? And or nurse. And it's like they don't want to let go of that side, because of that prestige or something like that it kind of compromises your dreams, So yeah, I wanted you to use your own experience and your story to pass a message to our people, of the importance of, pursuing your dreams. And I want you to pass that message by telling us, what point was it that you decided to be like, okay, I don't want to go into the pharmacy anymore. I know I have all this education and everything, and I don't want to, of course, you would tell people that you're a pharmacist when the question arises, like you said, but I don't think people approach you thinking you're a pharmacist, right? No, yeah. So they probably think you're just a tech guy, trying to start an innovative, company. But so when was it for you that you made that bold move to hang your white coat and say, okay, I have to put all my energy into this?
Yeah. So, it started with, with me working in retail pharmacy. So it was more of, because one, I'm the kind of person I easily get bored by nature, right? I easily get bored by routine stuff. Yeah. That'll bore me to hell. So it started with a little bit of just walking to a pharmacy every day, doing the same thing, that it became robotic. Right. Yes. I wasn't feeling fulfilled, I wasn't feeling fulfilled. And then I looked at it. On top of that, I looked at other options. Right. And I'm somebody who's like sometimes overly ambitious, So I looked at a lot of different things. I'm like, we're in America, right? There's got to be a lot more to this. There's going to be a lot more than this. Of course, becoming a pharmacist was like way, way beyond my wildest dream from where I'd come from, right? But after getting there, and I'm still seeing, like, we're in America.
Where you can go.
Like, yes, there's like just a lot of things. Potentials. And then I looked at, even working in retail, another thing that frustrated me was that I saw a lot of inefficiencies, right?
Yes.
In the system. I saw a lot of things that I could fix, but I didn't have the power to fix them. Because when you talk, when you talk to the manager, they'll be like, I have to talk to my own boss, and then we have to send it to corporate. And then at the end of the day, you don't feel like you're really contributing to, it then comes back, feels like, okay, you're just waking up every day going and just making money.
Robotic, basically, autonomous.
Yes. Yeah. So it just becomes robotic. So for me, I started exploring. I'm like, there's got to be more to this than that. Like, how can I grow? And that's why I decided, like, okay, I want to go back to school. I was like, I want to go back to school. I want to acquire more skills, better skills and all that. So that's why I started applying now. I applied to go to Yale and all of that. And even at that, it's like a lot of people thought I was crazy, right? It's like, you have a doctorate degree, you have a master's degree, you have an MBA. Like, how can you be going back again to school?
That's exactly what people told me too.
Degree,
yeah.
Right. So, and the one thing I tell people is, like, for me, I have a free mind, right? And I think it's helped me a lot because I have an open mind, always open to new things. So I'm like, me having an MBA has nothing to do with a master's in public health.
Yeah.
Like, these are two different
things.
Or having a doctorate doesn't mean that
you can go down to get an MBA.
To master's,
yeah,
I'm
right.
not going to learn anything. These are like so many different disciplines, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So that mindset of that, it was that mindset of people like, oh no, I can't go back for a master's after having a doctorate. It's crazy. Yeah. So for me, and to be honest, going to is one of the best things, because everything before going to Yale, we had the idea of UrPharm, Suki started working, but to be honest, we didn't know what we were going to do.
Yeah.
We did. It was just, we were just ambitious. Now in hindsight, we were just wasting our time in the beginning, knowing what I know now, So yes, for me, it was like acquiring all these other skills. So I'm naturally inquisitive, and so it was a lot of that, the frustrations in an environment where I'm looking at, okay, I have very little say. I'm seeing a lot of things that I think could be done better, but there's no way I can fix myself. And then when I looked at the potential, the room for growth was like, it looks like after, couple of years, you just plateau, you just like, and that is it.
Yeah.
So all of that, compounded, into me wanting to really do more. And another thing I kept telling my coworkers, it's like, the world of pharmacy is not really going to suffer because I left. Like, I don't think need to want more pharmacists, right?
Right.
But for me, I'm looking at me, like if I take another route, if I acquire another knowledge, it could give me the tools that I could use to explore other things, So so it was then that I was like, you know what? Yeah, I'm not holding on because I have a PharmD. I only have to do. I think that's what a lot of mistakes that I've seen a lot of people do, because you have a PharmD. People want to do entrepreneurship, right? Pharmacists want to do entrepreneurship. What's the next logical step? Open my own pharmacy, right? The fact that you have a PharmD doesn't restrict you. It doesn't mean any business. The only business you can do is
pharmacy.
Open a pharmacy.
Yeah.
No,
that's true.
There's so many things, and that's why independent pharmacies are struggling.
Yeah.
A lot of them are from people who just wanted to do business, and the next logical thing that they just thought about, because I'm a pharmacist, pharmacy, it was, so that's part of it. There's a whole other reason why they're struggling, but that's part of it, because so if I were to advise anybody, it's like, don't limit yourself by just because of the degree or the training you receive, because you can always get more training. Yeah. You can always be trained into more things and explore. So for me, and I look at education as the process, not even the diploma, or not even.
That's true.
There are aspects of the practice of pharmacy, like the leadership skills, like running a team. Pharmacy, right?
Yes.
Those are soft skills that we build during pharmacy school and all of that. Besides the obvious or the direct pharmacy stuff, there's also these other things that you learn going through pharmacy school. I learned a lot of time management.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Discipline.
A lot of time management, a lot of discipline in the process, which I think are serving me right now, So there's no part of me that's feeling like, I'm not using, or I'm really abandoning that, it's like, it was
a stepping stone. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just compounding, and it's like, it's part of me. It's an integral part. That's why some people, the other day, one of my mentors was like, are you a former pharmacist? I'm like, no, I'm a pharmacist.
An active pharmacist. Yeah.
I'm a pharmacist for life.
Yeah.
So I think, people, especially in our community, our people have ton of potential.
Yeah.
People just don't explore them.
Yeah.
Yeah. People just box themselves into tiny boxes. I'm like, this is, I'm doing this, I'm staying in this track, but I think there's a whole lot more that we can do if we just decide to explore and not be afraid to fail.
Yeah.
Yeah. If we just explore and like, hey, and I think the fear of failure too, right?
Yes, the fear of failure.
The fear of failure has killed so many dreams than failure itself.
Yes, that's true.
And I think that's one thing about me. I easily take risks, right? A lot of things I've done are risky. They weren't like obvious. Even now, it's not really 100% obvious what's going, but I'm not afraid to fail and learn from it, you know? So that is one thing too. It's like when I was going, I was like, oh, what if it doesn't work out? I'm like, if it doesn't work out, then I'll come back to being a pharmacist knowing that it didn't work out.
It didn't work out. Yeah.
You know?
That's very true. Thank you for that message. Actually, you answered a lot of my questions that I had because I really wanted, you to pass a message to our people to inspire them to keep pushing. Now, what are the best ways for the African community to support your ventures?
Right. So it is, so many different ways, right? People can help. I mean, it's whether it's spreading the word about our products, whether you're an African, we're a Cameroonian currently because UrPharm is already fully functional in Cameroon. Whether you're a Cameroonian living in Cameroon or abroad, you can always tell someone about UrPharm and how it can help them. You can spread the word on that. If you're in the US, you can always spread the word about, Pills2Me, and then, tell people, because we're always hiring too.
Yeah.
We're always hiring and people in order to grow. So I think those are, and I know we have like really great talent in our community, right?
Yeah,
so
we
anybody
do.
who has talent in healthcare, in technology, that think they can be a part of the journey. We're also, there's no better way of, no better feeling than building something big with your own people. So anybody out there who has skill sets that can help, we're happy to have you on board.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for that. I really appreciate you sharing your story. I can never be inspired enough. I really look forward to having more conversations with you. Now, how can the listeners reach you or follow your journey?
Yeah, so they can reach me on by email if they want, Leslie at Pills2Me.com. So PILS, 2ME.com.
Yes.
Or they can, I'm on Instagram. It's still, I think, Leslie Asanga on Instagram. And LinkedIn, Leslie Asanga on LinkedIn. I'm a big LinkedIn user too. So we can connect. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for sharing that. I will also have that information in our show notes for those who are looking for it, who want to use it. But I really, I can't thank you enough for coming on here. Oh my God. I'm always so inspired every time I speak with you. I always look forward to our conversations. And I hope that, our listeners have also been impacted, by all your messages and your stories that you have shared with us, and we will be watching closely, and hopefully we want to have you back when, you're making those millions and we're reading about you in the news and everything. Hey, we will be super proud of you. We're rooting for you. And do you have any last words before we close?
Yeah, I mean, what I would say is, anyone is that chase your dreams, right? I know it's been said 1,000 times before, but, I don't think you get fulfilled when you if you don't let your guards down, like forget about the failure, forget about everything else and what people would think or what would happen, what might happen, because a lot of times they don't end up happening, right? So just chase it. And worst case scenario, I was inspired. I came from this conference in Slovenia, where I was actually inspired by the story of this lady who runs a 250 million pounds company in the UK now. She was a stripper, right?
Wow.
And then she was kind of related. She actually had her signed book. She was talking about how, stripping helped her shape her into a great leader and an entrepreneur. Wow. And the biggest thing that I got from there was that, as a stripper, she learned to not give a shit. She learned to not care about what people think. She's like, there's no more vulnerable place like this. So that is what has helped her through. Like, she does what she wants to do. She doesn't care as long as she knows it's right. Like, all those external influences do not influence her. So
oh my goodness. I have to pick my mouth up from the floor. My mouth was open like, whoa. Oh my goodness.
I saw that. She's like, there's nothing more vulnerable than being naked in front of a bunch of people. So just that alone, that taught her to be able to like cancel all the noise. She doesn't care, when she's going in a direction and she's inspired, she knows her vision, she goes after it regardless of every other distraction and side. So that stuck with me. That was one of the things that I'm like, yeah. And she also made this connection. She's like, do you know how much you would achieve if you eliminated your inhibitions? Like what is stopping you, the things that are stopping you from pursuing what you think you really want to pursue?
Yeah.
If you just drop them back. So yeah, it is. My advice to anyone is, again, from what I've learned is, just forget about the inhibitions, forget about the what ifs, because we tend to, as human beings, we tend to always think about the worst case scenario, we always tend to think, and the worst case scenario only happens in a fraction of time, so it only happens a fraction of the time. So a lot of times like, okay, if I'm going down this highway, okay, what if I get hit by a car? But, if you go down the highway 9-10 times, you 100 times and not get hit. People are afraid of flying, including me. I fly a lot, but but it's just that you're like, but when you look at the probability, the worst case scenario of a plane crashing, how many times does it crash a day with all the thousands of, flight? So when you look at it, and that's also how I overcame my own fear of flying too. I'm like, looked at the probability. I'm like, I'm scared of this thing. Meanwhile, there are thousands of this, like, the probability of the plane actually crashing.
Yeah, 0.001%.
but then that's 0.001%. Someone wants to start a business and then they think about, okay, what if I put my money in this and I lose all of my money? So they think about that 0.001% of that happening, and it stops them from pursuing the
99.9999999.
Yeah. So for me, I focus on the possibility. I focus on the positive side of things, something that I really believe in, while, also being aware, with that the negative side can happen. Also, while also having contingency plans, knowing that, okay, this can happen, but I know the probability of that worst case scenario happening is low. So yeah.
Interesting.
So just again, letting your guards down, focusing on the positive side of what you want to do. When you focus on the impact and you think about what would happen. And one thing I also think about every day when I look at prescription orders coming through Pills2Me, I'm like, this is one person that might not have gotten their prescriptions if we were not existing today, right? Yeah. So that's how I look at it. I'm like, what if we shut down today? There are going to be a bunch of people that will not be able to get their medications, or at least struggle to get it. So when you think about, okay, what would happen what would the world be if I don't do what I'm planned? I think I can do to give my own impact,
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Very good way to put it.
Yeah. It's just a waste, right? It means your time on earth is like,
Yeah.
I want to go take all this with me, wasted, or do I want to try and leave the impact that I want? So
yes. That is so amazing. That is a very good way to put it. Thank you so much for sharing, and thank you for making us end this podcast on a high note. I really hope that we can continue these conversations amongst our circles, and just inspire one another to be great, especially as Africans. Like you said, we have so much potential, and we just have to tap into that potential and believe in ourselves and show up every day for ourselves. And the sky will not even be the limit. It will be the stepping stool. So
exactly.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I hope we can have this conversation again on even more conversations in the future. And I will catch you in the next episode. Thank you.
That's it for today. Thank you for listening to our show. If you want to participate in the show or find out more helpful resources, then visit www.livingafricanpodcast.com for more information, or email us at hello@livingafricanpodcast.com. Also, don't forget to connect with us on all social media platforms at Living African Podcast. You can also connect with Anyo directly on Facebook or Instagram at Anyo Farmbard. Thanks again for listening, and let's not forget to be more understanding and nicer to one another.